Let's get it. Mike Sempervive here with you for the next hour talking about professional wrestling, which is something we do every single day here on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Tune in, iHeart, American Forces Radio, Cable Radio Network 2, sportsbyline.com, over-the-air affiliates. Maybe you're listening via podcast or video streaming on Twitch or YouTube. However you're joining me today, just like to say thank you. Hopefully wherever you are, it's sunny outside. If not, hopefully it's sunny inside your mind. Absolutely gorgeous day here on my portion of Delmarva. The National Football League returns tonight. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. It was such a nice day outside. I thought about playing hooky. I thought about bailing on the show. I thought about being insulted by Bryan yesterday when I held up my name. And he said what he said because, the camera wasn't panned out. I was going to shake the show off today. But then I decided, no, I'm going to be a professional. Remember what Bryan was saying about being consistent last week? About him, saying that you just have to actually be determined and go out there and get it and be consistent and go out and work? Said I was going to do that. I was going to show up to work today. Got so much to talk about. Got Swerve Strickland's childhood home being burned down. Got WWE possibly getting some NBC specials that are going to be announced soon. Got All Out coming up this weekend. So many things we could get into, including Bryan's terrible attitude during Wrestling Observer Radio last night with Dave, which is all the talk right now. I was going to be here today to talk to Bryan about all those things. And then a couple of minutes before the show, Bryan sent me a text saying, hey, you may need to start. Then a couple of minutes later, got another text saying, you might be on your own today. Cold man. Cold man. Well, we do have a lot to get into, and we're going to just start it up when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live. Would you listen to that? We're even using music that Art Bell used back in the day on Coast to Coast. Not like we're using the Mutual radio rejoiner for the Larry King Show, or, you know, the old jingle for Steve Summers overnight on WFAN, something I would have listened to. No, this whole show today was set up for Bryan Alvarez to be here, but he's not. Best part is he's been annoyed recently. I think you probably heard that on this show yesterday. Surely, if you're a member of the website and you read his write-up of NXT, you knew what was going to be coming on the show yesterday, and then with Dave on Wrestling Observer Radio, and they were going at each other over whether Hikaru Shida should have a match right before she has a title match coming up at All Out and everything. The man has been in a mood. And in some ways, I feel for him. Real life, man. Comes at you hard. There was somebody that put up on Twitter, you know, I thought being an adult would just be one crisis after another. And it's not. It's actually a series of concurrent crises going on all at the same time, with multiple other, you know, shrapnel coming in to try to take you out. It's tough to do a lot of adulting, and Brian's living that right now. But what that does do, if you are a subscriber of the website, what that usually means is really good audio for you, because he's in that type of mood. And I'm sure after today, when it comes to the Brian and Vinny show, you're going to get Brian in rare form. $14.99 gets you everything the site has to offer, all the archives, all the audio, all that sort of stuff. I'll tell you about it more later on, all the different ways you can listen to Brian lose his mind via podcast on YouTube, on Twitch, on Spotify, on iTunes. So many ways you can do that. And poor Brian. Maybe he makes an appearance today. I don't know. Going to try to soldier on without him, because that's what we do. That's what he told us we need to do in life, is just to keep on getting it, to keep moving on. Netflix. I don't know if you've seen this. It's on the front page of the site. Brandon Thurston tweeted it out. I'm sure Netflix's official account tweeted it out as well. Ahead of its September 25th premiere, Netflix has released the official trailer for its Mr. McMahon docuseries. Interviews with Vince McMahon himself, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, John Cena, Bruce Pritchard, Eric Bischoff, Jimmy Hart, Bret Hart, Paul Triple H Levesque, and the Ringer's David Shoemaker are included in the trailer. Quote, "People have wondered who I really am. You know, the portrayal of me is I'm a bad guy, but no one really knows me," McMahon says as the trailer opens. WWE's Rise, the 94 steroid trial, Benoit's double murder-suicide, and Janelle Grant's sexual abuse allegations against McMahon are among the topics that will be covered. Grant was not interviewed for the series, although producers did reach out to her. We talked about that a couple of days ago on the show, about people that were upset over the fact that she was not interviewed. You got pending litigation going on. You got all of these moving parts going on. There was no way she was going to be a part of it. The docuseries is produced by sports media personality Bill Simmons, formerly of ESPN, and now I don't know where the Ringer stands. I don't know if that's an ESPN arm or not. But he and the executive producer of Tiger King, which is apparently that was a mini-series that everybody that, like, if you like the ridiculous, especially indie sleaze part of pro wrestling, it seemed like you had to watch that documentary, but I did not. Chris Smith, and that's his name. He was the Tiger King executive producer. It's going to be 6 one-hour episodes that are going to be available to watch on September 25th when the series debuts. So they're not going to draw this out. It's going to be something that is going to be easily bingeable for everybody, the McMahon documentary. And I saw the trailer. Obviously very slick, very well done, takes it through time. I think the most stark part about it, other than McMahon talking about when you're in this business that blurs the lines of fantasy and reality, you tend to be in a position to lose yourself. You hear that with method actors all the time. They get so into something that then after they're done supposedly being that part, either for the day or after they wrap, they end up staying in and they carry on some dark things. And we know with pro wrestling what it's like to straddle that line, and all of the stories from over the years of so many people doing a whole lot of bad things, but able to get out of it because, I was working. Mr. McMahon talks about losing himself, and there's a montage of him from a little boy going all the way up until the end, and then at the end of the trailer, it's just his eyes over Mr. McMahon in like typed out font that almost makes it look like a crime series or a serial killer or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see about this documentary. I don't know if I'm going to get Netflix for it. I don't feel as though I have to get Netflix until football is on there at some point. The NFL, I guess, is going to have a game on there. And then obviously WWE at the beginning of the year. I'll go ahead and get it then, but we'll see what the feedback is. Maybe it's just going to be so overwhelming that, hey, I got to go ahead and do it. We'll see. Raw ratings, to keep it WWE here for a second, on Labor Day, the numbers were down a little bit. There was college football on Monday night as well. Again, once the NFL kicks in, we'll see how some of these games go. The Monday night game that's coming up this week is going to be a big deal because it's going to be Aaron Rodgers' return to the Jets in New York against San Francisco. So it's going to be a high-profile game there. So the number could very easily be around the same coming up, or worse coming up here next Monday. But Raw dropped to 1.65 million viewers and a .49 rating in the 18 to 49-year-old demo. It's the lowest number since the NBA playoffs. This will be the start of Raw's lowest ratings period of the year, writes Dave Meltzer this today up on the website. It should be more evident next week against the NFL. And we don't have numbers for competition, but the usual college football over Labor Day weekend does hurt Raw noticeably, as it did this year. So we know what college football, as well as waning interest in the television shows, did last week when it came to Collision and Rampage. And I know there are a lot of people that blame that on WWE, and I get it. When CM Punk was there and the show kicked off and Collision had the highest numbers that it had, WWE running shows on Saturday absolutely did hurt them. There are people out there, apparently a significant portion of you guys, that are only going to watch so much and then, push it away. College football, though, takes a huge chunk out of that. And a lot of AEW's fan base, what they've lost has been the 18 to 49. If you look at last year's numbers, every time their numbers get reported, every single week, you can look at them and go, overall, they're down 20%. They've lost 1 out of every 5 people overall that were watching the show. And when it comes to 18 to 49, 1 out of every 4 people from last year has dropped off and is not watching anymore consistently. Those numbers are consistent every single week. And those people will find other things to do. They have found other things to do. And that's what made, to me, it very important. Treating this summer really important, trying to build up, because you knew once fall came and once Saturdays became a party for a lot of people again, because they're going back to school or they are just out and wanting to do something else other than watch your show, you're trying to give them a reason to stay. I don't think they did that. And I think these numbers that come up in the fall, even though they have big shows to build up to and big pay-per-views to build up to, it may actually even get worse for them as time goes on. As the time goes on here, the time is beginning to run out for Bryan Alvarez to make an appearance on this show. Stay tuned. See if he does. Wrestling Observer Live.
Granny, what's happening? What do we got for the wrestling report here today?
Talk or something.
Talk or something.
So Niven comes in, jumps on Bailey with her overweight body a couple of times, doesn't mind playing dirty, leaves Bailey on the mat in lots of pain. I found this book. It's called Limericks from the Heart.
Is this a Lanny Poffo book?
Let me finish this one. This guy's name is Lanny Poffo. And there are 335 pages in here. Can you guess what it's about?
Smoking.
Oh,
Sean the Wizard.
have you read it?
We read it every week for about 6 months.
When I first started.
Wow.
Why don't we start reading some questions, and we'll see if we can spur some answers out of Granny. Shall we try?
No, I don't think so.
Let's try.
Then you'll really find out how dumb I am.
Granny, did you know there was a wrestling bear?
No, and I don't care.
All right.
It's a bear that wrestled people.
I still don't care.
Okay.
Is Granny frozen?
Granny, you frozen?
No, I'm ready to read my report.
Your picture is frozen.
It is?
Yeah. Or you're doing a great job as a ventriloquist.
Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa, or whatever his last name is. Paul Newman is watching this match. And he's not on Cody's side. What's the matter?
Absolutely nothing. Everything's great.
You know, Cody did say that he was looking for a manager. I think him and Paul Newman would be a...
What a handsome pair.
Yeah. A dashing duo.
That guy's a movie star, isn't he?
Since you're on the phone, why don't we just jump right into your wrestling report and such, and then we'll let you go and we'll do Facebook without you.
Can I lay the phone down and can you hear me?
You can try. Why don't you give it a shot?
Okay.
Oh, boy. It's going to be a disaster. I can already tell.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. That's all right, I guess.
Go ahead.
No, it's your segment. You're gonna read
us jokes,
or your wrestling report or whatever. I see Granny has now put the phone back up to her ear.
I'm just for now.
Do you have the soaps or anything else, Granny, or is that it?
I want to quit for now.
Okay. Well,
no more.
Instead of suffering through the YouTube chat, click like and subscribe.
Mike Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. Didn't even hype the fact that we do this show right here for an hour at a time every single day, but if you want us 24/7, you can try to find us on Twitter/X. I'm at Sempervive. Brian is at Bryan Alvarez. Tom is at Filthy Tom Lawler. I don't know if he's made his X private yet after taking another unfortunate L last night against Raj Desi in a singles match in BLP. I don't know if he's going to be around on the show tomorrow. We may have to wait until next week for subscribers of F4WOnline.com. Filthy4 Daily. He may explain himself there. The website for this show is at WONF4W, and the broadcaster is at Sports Byline USA. Jim Valley is here with you on Saturdays, finally not getting counter-programmed for once. No Bash in Berlin or anything else taking place to interfere with his schedule on Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. And on Sunday, Andrew Zarian joins you beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. You can also make the wrestling news part of your day wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or head on over to thewrestlingnews.com and at Wrestling News AV on X and Facebook every single day of the year. Everything you need to know to get your day started, get you up to date, or get you to your favorite long-form review pod like Wrestling Observer Radio that Dave and Brian did last night for subscribers of the site, which I told you can be for $14.99. That gets you everything. Gets you Carl Stern show, gets you Les Thatcher's show, gets you all the archives to all of the shows, all of the archives to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. A new back issue of those goes up every single week up onto the site. You get the board if that's, if you're a fan of like YouTube comments, like the board will look great compared to that. I'll just go ahead and leave it there. But hey, if you don't want any of that stuff, you just want to listen to the podcast, you just want to watch the podcast, Twitch, one subscription for free as part of their Twitch Prime. You can use that on us. Go to twitch.tv/F4W video, hit subscribe. It'll ask you if you want to use Amazon Prime. Say yes. You get Wrestling Observer Live, Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian and Vinny, Figure 4 Daily, and a whole lot more. If you only want video live and on demand through YouTube, you can do that as well. That's $9.99, and select podcasts are also available via Spotify and iTunes for $9.99. For more information on all that sort of stuff, you can go on over to WrestlingObserver.com. I'm starting to like this new Scott D'Amore promotion, and in a little bit, we're going to get to the AEW Dynamite show last night, the go-home show for All Out. Obviously, a lot to talk about when it comes to that show. But Scott D'Amore, the former head of TNA Wrestling, has started up Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, a little bit of a homage to the Tunney family's Maple Leaf Wrestling that was a huge territory for years, that the Sheik had a lot to do with and literally put it on fire and then burned it completely all the way out. And Jim Crockett Promotions built it back up again and burned it all out. And WWF stepped in and did that just a couple of years before they ran that area, Detroit, Michigan, for WrestleMania 3 and got an alleged 93,000 people in there, a legitimate 70,000 people. But it is a very rich wrestling area, and Scott D'Amore has been cultivating that area for a long time, cultivating Southern Ontario for a long time, and did a lot of work with TNA and is trying it here on his own with the Maple Leaf Pro show. And I don't think we mentioned this yesterday. Mauro Ranallo and Don Callis are going to be the announce team on that show. So two old Stampede guys. I'm not sure if they did commentary together back in the day. Don Callis may have already been off being the Jackal by then or something like that. But they're going to be the announce team for the shows that are coming up on October 19th and 20th at St. Clair College in Windsor, Ontario. Konosuke Takeshita, who was already set to face off against Josh Alexander on one of those days, and I know that's going to be a good match. It's only happened once before, and it was that really small show, so this is basically going to be like a new first match here. They've announced the second one for him as well, too. He's going to be facing off against TNA's Speedball Mike Bailey, so that is apparently going to be on night one, and then it's going to be Takeshita and Josh Alexander on night two. These shows are going to air on Triller TV. They've already announced El Phantasmo, Raj Desi, the former Jinder Mahal, the Conqueror, or Filthy Tom Lawler, Giselle Shaw, who just recently left TNA. I don't think we mentioned that. Giselle Shaw had asked and was granted her release by TNA. The only caveat to that deal was she put somebody out over on her way out during the TV tapings that they held last week in Louisville. She did that. She was given her release. This is going to be one of her first appearances is going to be here in October. Also on the show, Kushida Alex Zane, who the last time I saw him, he was nursing a foot injury after getting hurt on the GCW shows over in Japan. So I'm not sure what his status is, but Kevin Knight, Jake Something, Kylie Ray, ROH World Women's Champion Athena, Trevor Lee, QT Marshall, and Miyu Yamashita are also scheduled for those shows. So these are, again, the first ones that Scott D'Amore has run since he left TNA in February. And again, good start at least, and has gotten some buzz, obviously, with getting Mauro Ranallo back into the announce booth to call the show. Now, we're getting into All Out time, and This is, I don't know how many all-outs we've had so far. What has it been, like 5 of them or something like that? I'm not sure exactly how many there's been, but I do know it's been 3 years since CM Punk made his in-ring AEW debut at the Now Arena in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, way back September 5th, 2021. He was there, and if I can bring in producer Dom right now, if he's anywhere near, we did a show not long after that. It may have actually even been that Monday right after that. Maybe Brian went to the show. That's why I was doing the show solo. But we were looking at eBay, or Dom was looking at eBay, and there was a box that was being sold on eBay, and this wasn't just any ordinary big cardboard box. No, this box was special. This was the box at the exits where they had all of CM Punk's ice cream bars in. And they were handing these ice cream bars out to fans as they left the building. And producer Dom, are you with me right now?
Yeah, I'm here.
If I'm not mistaken, the price of that box was like triple digits. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I mean, even for a, hilariously overpriced fake pseudo novelty product on eBay, like it was pretty expensive.
It was. I want to say it was either $199 or $149. And yeah, that first week right after he debuted, it wasn't just that there were still physical ice creams that people had like gone home and frozen available that you could buy on eBay, but people were selling the wrappers. There were a lot of those. And of course, like we talked about 3 years ago, and we're talking about now, the good old, and this is the listing, CM Punk Ice Cream Bar Box, 8/2021, United Center, best in the world, box only.
So
basically, it's a cardboard box with a sticker that says Punk Pops on it.
So it wasn't even for his debut. It was for the TV debut, I guess it was there. But, close enough to All Out where I'll go ahead and not hate myself too much for it. But as we move in to the 2024 edition of All Out, and over a full year after CM Punk departed the company, unceremoniously, maybe ceremoniously, I guess it just depends on how you look at it. What is the status of said box right now, and have there been any bids?
So it was never at auction. It's always been listed as a buy it now or best offer. I'll tell you, it's made of real freaking cardboard, and the current price is $49 with $7 shipping. And I'll say this, I'm the only person watching this product. I'm the only person who's saved this box, and I literally only have it saved because once a year when you're doing a solo show, it'll come up in our conversations during the break, and I'll give you the report. Otherwise, I wouldn't even bother watching this anymore. But, yeah, $49 with $7 shipping. You can get it now.
Speaking of things that you're watching here, because I know this segment is beginning to wrap up, but we were talking during the break about AEW actually got you last night, or got you yesterday with the Swerve House, eh?
Yeah, so I saw it during the day. I'm like, oh, hey, that's very cool. Swerve bought his childhood home. That's neat. I didn't watch Dynamite last night. I usually watch it the day after these days. So during dinner, I'm like, oh, hey, Mom, by the way, remember how you saw Swerve sign the new contract? He bought his childhood home. It was pretty cool. And then like 8:30 Pacific, I'm on Twitter, which was my first mistake, and I see Hangman, spoiler alert, burning it to the ground. I'm like, they got me.
I am surprised doing this show for so long that there wasn't a part your wrestling brain didn't immediately click into, they're burning this house down. Even if you shook it off, that you would be so cynical not to think that. I'm actually happy that you have not been sucked into the same vortex that Brian and I have.
Yeah, I failed for sure.
And you know what? I don't want to fail. I'm going to break, so I'll go ahead and cut it off now. We'll be back to talk about AEW Dynamite. Wrestling Observer Live. show. Mike Sempervive here with you. Wrestling Observer Live. You heard producer Dom is here. I know producer John is engineering the video. I know he's here. Still, though, 19 minutes and 40 seconds to go. Will Bryan Alvarez make an appearance on this show? We'll find out. Tony Khan says it's reasonable that AEW will be the second most profitable wrestling company ever. This was posted up a little while ago by Josh Nason on the front page of the site, f4wonline.com. During his Thursday media call to promote Saturday's All Out, AEW head Tony Khan confirmed MJF's recent statement that his company is on the precipice of becoming the second most profitable company in wrestling history if they can secure a new TV deal. I would hope they can secure another TV deal. This has been an imminent thing for, months now, that we are going to get some sort of word on a TV deal. Most people believe it's going to be back with WBD. Most people believe it's going to be a pretty healthy increase. Will that stop anybody from dunking on it if you're a WWE fan first? No. But everything seems like it's going in that direction at some point. September 5th. At some point we got to get that out there. Khan was asked about a recent MJF interview in which the former AEW World Champion mentioned that if AEW gets their new deal, they will be the second most successful wrestling company that ever existed. Tony says that's reasonable. Whether those cash flows happen overnight when the new deal kicks in, I can't say those things for sure yet, as there's still a lot to figure out. I do think that the die is cast that AEW will be the second most profitable company at this point of all time, which is very impressive for a promotion that is just over 5 years old and has been on TV for less than 5 years, Khan said, end quote. Tony Khan was influenced a lot by Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I think it probably shaped how he looks at wrestling, his global view of trying to seek out a lot of different things. I think one of the things that may have not have been a benefit to him, especially with the way his mind works, is to pick up run-on sentences, as Dave used to write in the old Wrestling Observer newsletters there. But there you go. Khan then said, without getting into the semantics of the statement, mechanics and accounting, they will indeed be the number 2 wrestling promotion, most profitable one of all time, even more so than WCW, which of course died a amazing, incredible death that is still brought up and farmed out there for content today as Vice TV did. But I don't know if we're going to have that when it comes to AEW. In fact, I don't think we are going to have that when it comes to AEW. No spectacular burning and crashing there. Maybe we will. I don't know. They can light it on fire like Hangman Page lit up Swerve's house last night. And as we go into All Out, the show last night opened up with Daniel Garcia coming out and saying that he wasn't waiting for All Out. He wanted to beat up MJF, and MJF was out there in the stands and started, of course, taking shots at Daniel Garcia, brought up Daniel Garcia's mother, made Daniel very, very upset. Daniel Garcia went out and charged MJF into the crowd. At first, he was held back by security, and then he broke through that, got to Max, who met him with a bottle and immediately busted him open, knocked him to the ground, and then held his head and cut a promo on him, and it was a decision, and I know this is one that people jumped on Bryan about, but I think he's right about this one. It didn't make Daniel Garcia look good. It made him look, pretty darn flat, and it made him look really foolish. Anytime a babyface, it's been said a lot, but it's true. It's one of those things. If a babyface makes a promise, that babyface has got to follow through. If a babyface goes and runs to start a fight, and doesn't lose because of numbers or doesn't lose because of some sort of trap that was set by the heel that was inventive enough to put the baby face out, you don't want to do it. And in a case like Daniel Garcia, people like Daniel Garcia. They want to cheer for him. They want to get behind him. they don't believe that he's anywhere at the level of MJF. Maybe they want him to be. You know, I'm sure his fans want him to be. I'm sure AEW wants him to be. You got to push him up there and inflate him up. And this feud with MJF, hopefully that happens. He's got a great opportunity because there's no title on the line or anything like that. And MJF, not saying that the man is Teflon, but MJF can take a loss to Daniel Garcia coming up at the pay-per-view and be okay with it. So maybe in their minds, they're thinking because Daniel Garcia may get the win coming up at the pay-per-view, we got to have something to show him laid out a little bit. We got to have something that shows him in some sort of peril. I didn't like it. You know, again, if he would have been held back by security, then Max would have hit him, that's fine. But Daniel Garcia is not puffed up enough to me as a character yet where you can do those things. And it's a small thing. People say, well, you're beating on it or you're picking nits or something like that. But again, subconsciously with people that are watching, you know, that's an issue. It's the same way, you know, in reverse of what WWE did with Braun Breaker or what you do with somebody that you're pushing. You know, he was in there with guys that physically he looked bigger than or looked just as big as. He was a complete whirling dervish, a machine. And it put it in your head right now that this guy's basically, even though he's got some losses, kind of undefeated. He's at a different level. And you see how quickly WWE was able to mash him over. And you look at a lot of people that have been pillars of AEW since Jump Street, and they have problems. Daniel Garcia has been a guy that for a long time people have wanted to see, at least I have, kind of break out of the pack and be given something to kind of grasp onto. So hopefully he does get the win over MJF, and hopefully they kind of, you know, are more careful about doing this with guys just because it makes good TV or because now it's time to, you know, cut the really long promo. You know what I'm saying? And there were a lot of promos on this show, a whole lot of promos, only 4 matches, and seems to be, I don't know, I haven't gone back to do the research or anything like that, but I remember Filthy and I that were talking about the lead into All In. And there were only 4 matches on the show, and there was a lot of talking. And if you don't like that, you probably would not have liked last night's show. Only 4 matches on it. The first one was, again, the one match that they had, or the 2 matches that they had were, to bookend the shows, was really good. But again, there were only 4 of them. Okada and Kyle Fletcher. I know people want to see Kyle Fletcher get victories, and I want to see him get victories more on Dynamite as well, too. Instead of just being out there in the quote-unquote banger match that he looks fantastic in, looks better than his opponent. I thought he looked better than his opponent, Kazuchika Okada here. Another case of that. But he doesn't pick up any W's, and the only reason I'm not going to beat on that is because I think it can work within the realm of Don Callis, because I can't see Kyle Fletcher staying aligned with Don Callis forever. He's just more of a babyface character. Now, in a team with Mark Davis, when Davis is ready to come back, if they decide to reform that team, you know, that's a little bit different. He can be more of a heel, but he wrestles like a babyface. He wrestles as little Will Ospreay. He's Will's friend. He's kind of, you know, his guy. He's the Hillbilly Jim to Hulk Hogan. He's the Chief J Strongbow to Bruno Sammartino. He's the Magnum TA to Dusty Rhodes. You know, somebody that somebody's going to get through or try to get over to get to the other guy. And I think he's a really great guy to play that role. And him going on a losing streak and ultimately having Don Callis be that upset with him where he doesn't want to use the screwdriver, he keeps losing matches, he keeps doing this or that, you know, ultimately him getting stomped out by the Callis family and having Will Ospreay rescue him, I'm actually good with that. So the match itself was, again, really, really good. I'd like to see Fletcher pick up some victories once in a while. You know, you don't have to kind of beat anybody over the head with it, but pick up some victories once in a while. But you know, as far as him losing the big match right now, I'm okay with that because I hope there's a better story to be told with him. The main event, the Blackpool Combat Club and Pac against Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and Will Ospreay. they did a good job throughout the night, whether you thought some of the segments were long or not, but really driving home the matches that are coming up this weekend at All Out. And they did that with Pac and Ospreay, who continued to brawl after the match. They were brawling backstage, and it was a good way to get Pac out of the equation of the Blackpool Combat Club in that moment, because he was out there, brawling around with them. The Young Bucks and Jack Perry attacked Bryan Danielson and attacked the Blackpool Combat Club after the match, and they got everything in that they needed to get in there, including Bryan Danielson telling Jack Perry at the end of it he was going to kick his effing head in coming up this Saturday, so they were able to drive that home. Earlier in the night, we got another appearance by Jon Moxley and Marina Shafir, and I don't know the movie. I know Jeepers Creepers or Bangers Mash or whatever the hell. I can't remember. Can't remember the tweet right now. The Australian movie, Russell Crowe, whatever it is, I don't know. But obviously, he's got this character in his mind, and he's a badass, and he's got Marina Shafir with him, and she's kicking everybody and laying out men and doing all this stuff, and they were doing that on their way into the arena to cut their promo, and they went by Jack Perry and the Young Bucks, and nobody fought anybody. Marina Shafir didn't pick up Jack Perry and spin him around or anything, but Jon Moxley just said, I don't care what anybody says, Jack Perry, I think you're a cute kid, and just kept on walking to the ring to cut his promo. Once again called out Darby Allin because they have a lot in common, brought up when Darby Allin, he didn't know who he was, and he had a match with him, and after that, even though he beat the dog out of Darby Allin looked up and smiled at him, and Moxley knew that he was his kind of guy. And he didn't say anything to anyone about anything not being anyone's company anymore, but he did call out Darby Allin again and said and reiterated he just wants to talk. So we'll see what direction they decide to go to there. They also last night officially made a tag team title match for the pay-per-view. It's going to be the Young Bucks against Claudio and Wheeler Yuta. The cage match that is going to main event the show, Bryan Danielson or Hangman Page against Swerve Strickland. As producer Dom told you before the show, as I'm sure a lot of you saw yesterday, Swerve Strickland bought the home that he grew up with, legitimately bought the home that he had grown up in. And it was a great story. And it was like, I wonder if this is going to make it to TV. So much stuff that they put up on social media. These good, heartfelt stories. These things that give you some layers about the character or what this person is doing. Is it going to make it to TV? And it did make it to TV. And as soon as it made its way to TV, your wrestling brain should have went off in the same way that producer Dom's wrestling part of his brain should have went off. And it was going to be an angle. And Hangman Page cut about the best promo that he's ever cut. Seemed to do it continuously in one take. God knows how many takes they took. But as Swerve Strickland sat in the ring, waiting for the Hangman to come in and sign his contract, no. Hangman was cutting a promo. He was at that childhood home of Swerve's. And he lit a match, and he burned it to the ground. So over the top, I thought it was great. And I thought Hangman was great during it as well, too. Talk a little bit more about it when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live. Back on the show, Mike Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. I'm not lying. That was a great promo that Hangman cut last night. As over the top and as cornball as it is, I mean, it's arson. The fans were chanting, "This is arson." It was arson. Like, at some point, somebody needs to do it. It would be WWE because the Reels network is on Peacock. You know, they've got to do some sort of On Patrol Live. I mean, they were close to doing that, I think, with Rhea Ripley and Dom. Or no, who was it? I think it was a fight with somebody where they had a fight outside and they had the Cobb body cam footage and everything. And it was still, you know, cornballing over the top, but at least they put some effort into it. Somebody's going to actually do a crossover and have On Patrol Live or something like that at some point down the line. But Hangman Page was in that house and brought up to Swerve the fact that, yeah, I remember, you know, I had to sit here and you're sitting there watching me take my pregnant wife to the hospital. And again, he's very righteous about this. The man has got a reason to be insane. You people have driven him to this. Swerve Strickland has driven him to this. You made that man a hero for trying to take everything away from Hangman Page and trying to do that to him, put that on that man. So Hangman Page told you he was going to burn Swerve's world to the ground, called out Swerve's daddy, said that he probably wasn't very proud of him, probably be happy that if he never had Swerve, and that's what really set Swerve off. And then Hangman sat down in an oversized chair, his All in the Family Archie Bunker chair, had his drink next to him, lit up a big flame, dropped it behind him. Green screen? Sure. But it was so over the top when the house went up into flames that it worked. Swerve on the ground, I thought he was great. Thought they lingered on it too long. Sometimes it's just better to get Swerve crying and get out of there. Like, I got to get out of here right now and find out where the heck Bryan Alvarez is. Look at that, he didn't curse. I want to thank producer John. I want to thank producer Dom. And I want to thank all of you out there for listening and watching. We shall talk to you again after a while.